This is Dr. Chris's Radio of Horror, 91.3 FM, WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts, with a recorded interview with Pamela Isley and I with Jonathan Maberry, the author on V Wars, Rotten Ruin, and the upcoming X-Files anthology series from IDW Comics. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Jonathan, again.
Oh, pleasure to be here.
It was awesome having you on the show 2 years ago, and it's great to have you back on now that, which is kind of funny because we had you on when V Wars the book came out, and now we have you on when V Wars the comic book series has come out from IDW.
Yeah, it's been a crazy 2 years also. I mean, a lot of stuff's happening.
Definitely. Pam and I both, the Free Comic Book Day.
The Issue Zero, yeah.
Issue Zero, with the artwork by Kevin Eastman, the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
He did he's doing all the variant covers for us, and Kevin's a great guy. I know him pretty well, and he was a terrific guy. Remarkably humble for a guy who has as much comic book street cred as he does. Just a neat guy to hang out with.
Definitely, that was really cool. As soon as I saw that cover, I was just like, oh, Kevin Eastman's doing the alternate covers. So every
I pretty much did the same thing.
Yeah, that was my big draw, because I was just like, let's see, will it be as good as the book? Oh, wait, the draw is the cover as well. And the interior artwork is amazing, too.
Yeah, that's Adam Robinson, and he does just a fantastic job for us. He's the regular artist on the comic, and we have a nice, close relationship, developing the story visually as well as with the script, and he's fun to work with. He's a very creative guy.
Now, we both have kind of mixed opinions about the V Wars novel. Pam, if you don't mind some criticism.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I like it. Pam has a different opinion about it.
I don't know if it's really a criticism. I just found that I have a hard time personally when things flip around a lot. I get a little distractible. So there were some stories I really latched onto, and there were others where I was kind of like skimming, like, but what's going to happen to the barista? What's going to happen? I just found parts like that I was trying to get through. But I did really like, and I like the way it shows up in the comic too, and how it's tied into the same world, but it's not quite exact. I like the mixture of the science with the supernatural kind of elements.
Yeah, well, a couple of things about that. As far as the format for the anthology, that was an editor's decision that I actually do agree with. We wanted it to be cinematic, so it would have a lot of jump cuts, kind of like a TV show or kind of like a movie where you're running parallel storylines and you keep going back and forth because all of it's happening at the same time. So that was the decision there, and it does make for a challenging read, but once you get into it, it becomes the style of V Wars. And we're doing, I'm currently editing 4 more anthologies for that series. The second one comes out in a couple of weeks, and we have some returning writers, and we have some new folks like Scott Sigler, Joe McKinney, Larry Corrier, Kevin Anderson, Weston Oakes. They stepped in to give me really cool stories, because the second book, the first book is about how the war starts. The second book, we put hair on the walls. I mean, it's the actual war. And I asked these guys to go over the top for me, and boy, did they go over the top. And then with each anthology, we go deeper into the war and the way it plays out around the world. But the other thing about the science, one of the things we established with V Wars is that there is no supernatural element to the story. It's pure science. Anything supernatural is what people believe, but not what's actually in the story. So it kind of plays into world folklore, but when we look real close at it, it turns out to be science rather than supernatural. And that's something that isn't usually done with vampire stories, and I had a lot of fun with that.
Are you watching? Did you watch the first episode of The Strain tonight?
I had a DVR. I like binge watching, so I have a DVR. I'm gonna wait. I have 3 or 4 episodes to sit down and finally dive in. But yeah, I definitely plan to watch it as soon as I have enough episodes and a block of time.
Do you feel people compare the V Wars to The Strain with the science of the vampirism?
Well, you know what? That's it. This is something that we talk about because we're shooting for TV as well. You could say they look a little similar from a distance, but at any distance, any proximity to the subject matter, it's pretty obvious it becomes completely different. The Strain is a much more monstrous type of story. It's it's apocalyptic in its structure. It's about the world is likely going to come to an end because of these results. The monsters are more monstrous, so to speak, and it's a whole different vibe. We're taking it from the point of view of this is in our world. So even though parts of it are cracking and burning around the edges, it's still the world we know, and that gives it a completely different vibe. Our TV series will be very much set in the real world at the very beginning of the outbreak. And the world will look the way it looks now, except that, the vampire gene keeps firing and different types of vampires spread out. And that's another difference, too. All of the vampires in V Wars are based on vampires that exist in actual folklore. I wrote 5 nonfiction books on the folklore of vampires over the years. And there are hundreds of different species, in different belief systems around the world. So every vampire that shows up in our book, our series, is based on something people actually believed. There is nothing, just invented for the story. And that allows us to tap into actual belief systems, which we find very, very liberating in terms of creativity. It gives us a chance to touch an existing
nerve. How far in development is the TV series?
Well, right now, this is the paint's still fresh on this. So right now we're at the point where Tim Schlotman, who was our showrunner, who by the way was the executive producer and showrunner for Dexter for 8 years, he's just about. I believe he's just about finished the script. I haven't read it yet, but he's working on the pilot script. And then once that's done, then the production group, which is IDW Entertainment, Circle of Confusion, and Entertainment One, begins shopping that to networks. And Circle of Confusion, one of the groups we're partnered with, they're the ones who were behind the development of The Walking Dead and Mad Men and the Matrix movie series.
So 2 out of 3 isn't bad.
Yeah, they certainly know how to hit one out of the park.
What seasons was this showrunner? What seasons of Dexter was this showrunner that you're working with on Dexter for?
All 8.
All 8. Okay.
Yep.
You really want to say something about the last season of Dexter right now?
That last season of Dexter. But I know that's not his fault. So.
No, it's really not. Sometimes there are studio decisions that are that come from, as they say, the suits.
Yeah.
What they tell you to write.
I know.
The stuff that Tim Schlotman did on that show, on Smallville and other shows, it makes it pretty clear that when he's allowed to be in the driver's seat, he's going to turn out one hell of a product.
Yeah, and I thought Smallville got to do what they... I mean, God, for that show to run for 10 years, the longest-running superhero show ever, that they got to do what they wanted with that show.
Yeah.
So,
they got to do quite a lot, and Tim was responsible for a chunk of that.
Yeah, I'll defend Smallville anytime, just because I'm like, really? Went on for 10 years, it couldn't have been that bad.
Yeah, it also opened the door for things like Arrow. And
the Flash.
Shows that are going to be on Netflix and so on. It proved that a superhero show done without camp can really work.
And a superhero show that actually acknowledges the superhero continuity and brings in like the geeky stuff that you love about the character, and not just make it this soap opera.
It's such a hard thing for them to figure out. So come on, who do you think's watching this show? People who have never heard of Superman or Green Arrow, or the fan base is the loyal fan base that wants some nod to the superhero universe because they're going to, like I do, geek out on it. Give me something. Give me Bizarro Superman. I'm sold. I'm there next week.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look at Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. I mean, that was great, but let's face it, that was one giant soap opera. And when I look back on that show, at the age of 34. I'm like, this show had nothing to do with Superman other than him in that costume.
Lois and Clark was not my favorite show. Smallville, I loved. I love that show.
Yeah, I will always defend Smallville.
It's fantastic.
Now, One series I haven't read that Pam has is Rot and Ruin. Pam, I have some questions for you, but I've never read the series.
Yeah, that's you're really credited with bringing zombies into the YA fiction universe. And that's becoming a comic book series as well, beginning in September on IDW. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Is there anything you can?
Let me just tell you real quickly how that got started, because it didn't start off as YA. Rod Ruin actually started off for adults. It's kind of a weird thing. Christopher Golden, who's a great writer and great editor, had asked me to contribute a novella to an anthology he was editing for St. Martin's Books called The New Dead, which is basically zombie stories kind of told from a different perspective, either a different perspective for the genre or something that was outside the writer's wheelhouse. And he asked me to do something, and I had never written a story with a teen protagonist and never written a post-apocalyptic story up to that time. So I did that, but I had no intention of it being for teens. And then after it was published, my agent read the story, and usually agents don't read your short stories; they only read deal with your novels. She read it and said, "This is the opening of a YA novel." I'm like, "No, it's not," and I lost that argument. And she went out. She said, "I want to take us out and shop it." And I said, "It's only the opening. It would only be the opening of a novel. It's a novella." She said, "Believe me, let me take it out and shop it." Bang. We got an auction. We got a great deal, and Simon & Schuster bought that and 4 sequels. But yeah, it started out, and it was only the second zombie novel for teens that was published at that time. The first being Carrie Ryan's Forest of Hands and Teeth, which was done as a romance set in a world where there are zombies, and mine was more of a Romero-esque type of zombie story.
What was that teen zombie movie that came out last year?
You're talking about the one...
Warm Bodies.
Oh, Warm Bodies.
Yeah, they gave away your novel. They gave away like hundreds of copies of your novel at the the theater I went to for Warm Bodies.
Yeah, and it's funny because I know Isaac Marion, who wrote Warm Bodies, and he didn't write that for teens either.
Yeah, I didn't like the movie though. The power of love turns you good.
The book better. The book was great.
Yeah. I just didn't like that whole the power of love turns people normal again and.
But that movie did really well. Not everything is for you.
Yeah, I mean, you're not the demographic for that book. Neither am I. Though I like the book. I mean, it's an allegory. It's like all good zombie fiction. It's not about zombies. There's no successful zombie story that's about zombies. It's always about something else, and zombies are the canvas on which we paint that picture. So he wanted to talk about, how love is an important force and the potential for it. So he used the zombie apocalypse as a way of telling that story, and he hit a home run with it. It was a very successful book. He's working on another one, and I've done some panels with him. He's a hell of a nice guy, and I agree with his handling in the book, even if I'm not the demographic he was shooting for.
Can you tell us anything about the upcoming comic book series based on Rot and Ruin?
Oh yeah, now we're going to be dropping some more stuff about that at Comic-Con and giving away a mash can of the first 5 pages of the comic. But essentially, it's set between the events of the second and third book. There's a 6-week gap between Dust and Decay and Fire and Ash, and it allows me to tell new stories. I don't want to adapt the book. I want to tell new stories. The movie's going to do an adaptation of the book, but I wanted to tell new stories and keep it going. And this allows me to take the 4 principal characters, Benny, Nix, Lila, and Chong, and put them in increasingly difficult and challenging situations, some of which push the envelope of what might be considered YA, but so did the novels. And big art, we have great art. We have great covers by a couple of different artists who are doing covers, Ryan Brown and Alex Vargas and a few others, and it's going to be a killer. It's absolutely going to be a killer. And the graphic novel will debut, which collects the first 5 issues, will debut in April, and that's actually going to have discussion questions in there, so that teens, parents, teachers, librarians, whatever, can have discussions about some of the real tough stuff that we cover
And then when does the X-Files begin?
We don't have a date yet for when that launches. Now, IDW is currently doing the official season 10 of X-Files as a comic book written by Joe Harris.
Yes, they are. And by Matt Smith.
Done one arc there, and he's really just fantastic. So, and it's sanctioned by Chris Carter, by the way.
Yep. Because they can never get that movie going.
Yeah, I'd love to see another movie. So Ted Adams, the CEO of IDW, we went out and had lunch, and he said, he knows I'm a huge X-Files fan, and he said, would you be interested in doing some anthologies of the X-Files? And I don't think he even had the sentence out of his mouth before I was giving him a list of who I read in the book. And he gave me permission to do 3 to start off with, and as many more as I want to do after that. I said, let's start with 3. And then we've got a weird lineup of people. I mean, we've got guys like Brian Keene and Scott Sigler and horror writers and science fiction writers like Kevin Anderson. But we also have mystery writers like Gail Lins and Hank Philippi Ryan, David Liss. So, we've got a lot of different people, plus like Max Allen Collins, who did Road to Perdition's, doing a story for me, which is just fantastic for me. Plus people who wrote some of the episodes, some of the novels, rather, that were attached to the series a while ago. And one of the actors from the show, Dean Haglund, who played one of the lone gunmen, is writing a short story for me for the anthology.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's a writer, and he's a good one.
Yeah, because they revealed the lone gunman didn't die in the Jump the Shark episode. No, they faked their deaths.
They were in, I think, an episode of X-Files after that, weren't they? That was the.
They were figments of. They were ghosts, or they were figments of. At the time when the episode aired in 2003, they were probably ghosts. But obviously, they didn't have any, intention of they were dead. So when they did season 10, it was revealed, oh wait, they faked their deaths and they've been living below Arlington National Cemetery.
Yeah. And we were hoping to, by the way, be able to get Frank Black and do stories about him, because Millennium is considered a spin-off of X-Files. But that is even though it's also a Chris Carter show, and even though IDW is going to be doing the comic, it's under a different license, so we can't actually use Frank Black's character, which is the only thing I'm bummed about.
Oh, because I'm sure Lance Henriksen would probably love to write that.
Yeah, actually, I'm in discussions to see if maybe he'll write me an X-Files story.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Because he's written comics and stuff, and he's a hell of a nice guy. He's always fun to hang out with. Yeah,
I've met him a couple of times at a couple of different conventions. We always have odd pictures together. It looks like we're staring at each other befoundedly, like, what the hell's going on with this person? It's just the weirdest pictures. They before we took the candid, hey, smile at the camera shot. It's this weird picture we're giving each other these oddball looks. I've kept every one of them.
Nice. Also, Amber Benson from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, who's a friend of mine, she might write a story for us if her schedule opens up. She's got a lot of stuff going on right now, so I'm hoping that Amber writes me a story too.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, Amber and Christopher Golden, who you previously mentioned, have both been on the show as well.
Yeah, Chris is a great guy. He's going to do something for another anthology I'm working on, and he has a story in an anthology I have coming out in the fall called Out of Tune, which is all stories inspired by classic folk ballads. And I've got him, Shana McGuire, Jack Ketchum, Kelly Armstrong, Simon Green, all did kind of bizarre stories for me, and Chris gave me a fantastic one.
Simon Green and Jack Ketchum also have been on the show.
So is Sean and McGuire.
Oh, and Shauna McGuire as well.
Nice. I guess so. You know that she's also Mira Grant.
Mira Grant, yeah. I've read most of her work as Mira Grant.
Her zombie series is, Feed is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool.
Love it. Actually, speaking of Amber Benson, I read a short story of hers for the first time when I read Spellcaster 2.0 by you, An Apple for the Creature. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a great anthology, too, and that was a great kind of introduction. I think that's why I was wicked psyched when I read that short story. I started doing book reviews, just about the time I read that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I also
really blend that, magical and academic and, I don't know, fun stuff.
I also downloaded your after the last time you came on the show. It was like I think about 6 months ago. I finally got them downloaded on my Kindle. The Marvel Universe versus the Punisher, Wolverine, and the Avengers.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
There was some conversation about me doing another one, a Thor one, but I kind of feel like I told the story that I wanted to tell, and I'm done with it now. I did a project for Dark Horse earlier this year, Bad Blood. That's done. It was a 5-issue, very downbeat vampire comic. Comes out this October or November in graphic novel. But now I'm doing stuff for IDW, and they're also local to me. I moved to California 8 months ago, and they're in San Diego, just a 20-minute drive from me. So I'm having fun doing some freelance stuff for those guys, hanging out with them, and getting in trouble.
Yeah, IDW's got a lot of great stuff coming up. Dark Horse, has a lot of great stuff coming up. And a lot of people were worried how the company was going to survive after the loss of the Star Wars license, because that's a good chunk of their profits. But I guess they've got a lot of stuff going on that they're not worried.
No, they're not. They got, as you said, a lot of other projects, and just like IDW is no longer going to be doing Doctor Who. It doesn't crash the company. They got so many irons in the fire.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, they got Transformers, G.I. Joe, Godzilla, Ghostbusters, My Little Pony, the X-Files, the 24.
Lock and Key, Joe Hill's Lock and Key, even though it's done, they're still publishing reprints and so on. One of the best comic book series probably in the last 20 years.
Yeah, what a company that went from they're this tiny little thing that takes a chance on an unknown book called 30 Days a Night, and then that exploded them into stardom, and now they own all these these property rights, and they have all these great original stories as well.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
They own Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is on its 30th anniversary, along with Transformers. They both have movies out this year.
I saw the original art for that, by the way, for the 30th anniversary annual.
Say that again?
I just saw the original art as Kevin Eastman was there at IDW to deliver the original art for the 30th anniversary annual. He was showing it to us, and it's just freaking great.
Cool. Ooh. Yeah, he's going to be at a convention coming up in November at Super Mega Fest.
Nice.
Yeah, I missed him at the last couple cons. His line was too long to want to wait in. So I'm going to take another stab at it this time around in November.
Cool. It's worth it. He's a great guy.
Yeah, definitely. I've met his co-creator Peter Laird numerous times.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't met him yet. But Kevin's also a neighbor too. So it's a weird bunch of comic book people and other writers in this part of Southern California.
They just put out a massive illustrated comprehensive history of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Have you seen it?
I am promised a copy of it.
Yeah, you gotta read it. I didn't put it down when I started reading it,
Yeah.
It was that awesome.
Yeah. One of the other things IDW does that I really love is their artist editions.
Yeah.
The Jack Kirby New Gods one is brilliant. The Spirit, I think Spirit 2 is coming out. And I did a Peanuts one recently. Those things are great because, even though I don't do the art for my comics, looking at the full-size original art, high def scans so you can see the original art, really tells you a lot about what a good artist can bring to a project, and how much of the script is interpreted, and how much of the story is then told by the artist. Back in the old Marvel days, the Marvel Method days, the artist would do a story conference, and the artist would draft it out. Then the writer would go in and write the word balloons. It's not that way anymore. The writer actually writes the story and tells the artist what they want in each panel. But it's still up to the artist to take that and make it come alive and to tell even more than what's in the script. A good artist can do that. Can not only do their part, but make the story come more alive and move it forward, and even suggest what movement was going on between the panels. And these artist editions allow you to see that. You see what the masters of comic book sequence can actually do or have done. And it's a great education for me as a writer, because I learned from looking at that.
What I was the one thing I don't think I asked you last time, and Pam might have one last question as well. Is what comics growing up influenced you as a writer, or what books?
Well, I was a Marvel kid.
Okay.
I started reading Fantastic Four. My first one I bought was Fantastic Four 68. So it's a long, long time ago, back when dinosaurs ruled the earth. And grabbing a bunch of other stuff, I was able to get, Fantastic Four going back to about the 30, issue 30. So my favorite characters, were Reed Richards and T'Challa, the Black Panther. I learned so much about just decent behavior, about treasuring your intellect, and using, your education to get you out of certain circumstances. I grew up in a very violent environment, both at home and in the neighborhood, and education was my ticket out. And it taught me a lot. I actually learned some of my best values from comics, because I wasn't learning them at home, unfortunately. I learned them from comics. Captain America, Spider-Man, those characters, a lot of them came from troubled backgrounds, and they rose to become powerful in their own lives. And that was a pretty important thing for a kid to who didn't, there was no such thing as the internet back then, and there was no role model around, and that was my role model. So comic books did a lot to make me a better person, without a doubt.
And look at you now. You rose to become a powerful, you're a New York Times best-selling author.
It's a crazy ride, I'm telling you.
In multiple genres.
One other thing I wanted to mention, and this ties into both comics and TV, and actually all three novels, is my Joe Ledger character. I do that series of Joe Ledger novels. The sixth one, Code Zero's out. But that character appears in issues 6 through 8 of V Wars.
Oh.
And that's a lot of fun. I had so much fun doing the comic book version of the favorite character I've ever created. I had so much fun doing that. And then he's been optioned, the fifth book in the series, Extinction Machine, has been optioned for television by Lone Tree Entertainment. So I've got 2 shows now in development for TV, and a Rotten Ruin movie in development. So, it's a wild, crazy time.
You're going to be busy.
I'm going to be busy. I like being busy. If there's a better job description than being able to make stuff up for a living, get well paid for it, and have fun, if there's a better job than that, I've never heard of it. I'm having so damn much fun doing my job. And I've worked crap jobs before, believe me. This is the dream. I'm living the action. I never thought you'd actually live the dream that you have. I'm actually living my dream. So if this is an illusion or a dream and somebody wakes me up, I'm going to kill them.
What do you have to say for people who are suffering through the depression of not getting something going that they want to do,
because there are a lot of people out there doing creative stuff who find themselves kind of doggy paddling, their way. 4 crappy jobs.
The same thing I did. You keep at it, because I was not exactly an overnight success.
No.
I started selling my writing in 1978. I became a novelist in 2004.
How old were you then?
My first book was published 2006.
How old were you then when this kind of started happening?
44.
Okay, so I gotta wait for 10 more. I'm 34 now, so I have to wait 10 more years to rewrite the golden train to Cash Land.
Nobody said it would be easy.
It's not an age thing. What it is, it's a being relentless thing. You can't give up on it.
I know. I'm looking at my numbers, my ebook numbers for my first vampire novel have just been and I gave out so many free codes to download the fricker thing. And nobody is downloading the goddamn book. And it's such a book that speaks to people of this area. It's about a video game developer, and he's a vampire, and but him being a vampire is no different than me being a man and Pam being a woman. It's just a character trait, and it's just not going anywhere. I'm like, what the hell?
Hey,
it may not be the writing. Let me explain what changed my career, because I was struggling, racking up rejection letters, and all the stuff that people do when it's not working yet, and I say yet. And two things changed it. One, I figured out, I remembered a bit of advice I had gotten years and years ago. I met Ray Bradbury when I was a kid, and one of the things he told me, and I forgot, this. I found a notebook with it. It's that writing is copies of art. Don't confuse the two, but be good at both. And when I realized that, and it took me a long time because I bought into the whole writer's mythology thing that if I wrote a good book, it should become successful, which is total horse crap. I spent a lot of time focusing on learning the business of publishing. And the more I learned, the more successful I became at selling the art of writing. The third part of that is social media. I drive my own social media, and I write 50 minutes out of every hour, and I spend 10 minutes out of every hour doing social media.
Wow.
Every day, that's my schedule.
And you are a very interesting person on Facebook.
Yeah, and on Twitter, you're very responsive on Twitter.
I run my Facebook page, I used to do it the wrong way, which is basically selling my own stuff all the time, which gets even boring for me to do. So I decided instead to simply have fun. I put a lot of funny stuff up there. I don't talk politics. I don't talk religion. I don't get into fights with people. I just have fun with people. And once in a while, when I have something to sell or a link, I'll put that up. But it's not my primary message. My primary message is we're all having fun together. And not only do I have more fun, but it actually sells more of my product, even though I'm putting fewer ads up, because people don't feel that they are getting pitched to every time they come to my page. They can just come there and get a chuckle or share an opinion or have some fun, and they don't have to buy anything. That changed the dynamic completely. It also makes it a lot more fun for me to run on Facebook.
So your advice to a lot of writers, because this question wasn't so much to be like egotistical about me, but a lot of writers have this problem. They're focusing way too much on one thing and not remembering to
get people interested, not just the marketing.
And to write for fun.
It's like a TV show. Do the fun
it's
thing.
about people, not numbers. It really is.
Yeah.
So, and also, probably one of the greatest bits of advice I got, this was from Richard Matheson, the other guy. Don't be a jackass.
Nice.
That's
good advice
for a writer. Stop thinking that you're the center of the universe. Don't be a jackass. Be a nice guy, and go with that as a business plan. And that's like, wow, it's a radical business plan. Don't be a jackass. I'll try that. Turns out it's more fun not to be a jackass. I did the whole jackass thing once, for a while. It really doesn't get you anywhere.
Do you think self-publishing is a good or bad way to go to get something out yourself?
It's fine if as long as you get it edited well, because a lot of self-publishing has a bad rap because it's badly edited.
Yeah.
Get it edited well, then put it out there. I'm talking proof edited. And then get it out there, and let it stand as a writing example. Just don't expect to sell that piece.
No kidding. Yeah.
To a publisher. So use the sales of that or the notoriety or reviews of that to help sell your next piece. That's the formula that works really well. A lot of people think that just if something is really popular and self-published form, that it means that somebody will, a publisher will buy that version. That rarely happens. That version's already sold. You'd be competing with an already established product if you try to sell that version to a conventional publisher. Sell the next thing and point to that and say, see, look, I got good reviews on that piece.
Good.
Sure. Random question here, since we both did a little fist bump when we heard you were a Marvel fan, because we're both Marvel fans over here. And you've been in now comic books, short stories, novels, TV shows, up and coming. If you could do any superhero movie, what would it be?
Black Panther. I would love to write the Black Panther movie, and I would love Idris Elba to star in it.
Oh, that would be awesome. Now, do you have enough... I mean, would you have to wait until the V Wars thing gets going to go to your agent and say, hey, do you have a connection at Disney Marvel Studios? Could you get me a meeting with somebody and say, hey, I have a pitch for a Black Panther? I mean, do you think you have enough clout with the...
I've talked to Axel Alonso, the editor-in-chief, about that. He's like, yeah, get in line. There's 30 other guys ahead of you who want to write that movie, including Reggie Hudlin, the producer of Django Unchained, who actually wrote the comic before I did.
Oh.
It's just that, unfortunately, there's not a lot of faith that movie would sell well.
But they're giving Luke Cage his own series on Netflix.
Stupid. Of course it would.
But they're giving Luke Cage his own series on Netflix, so I mean, Luke.
You see him on a series on Netflix. You don't see him in a $150 million blockbuster film because they don't think there's still this hesitancy about putting an African American superhero as a lead character. You have War Machine as a supporting character, Falcon as a supporting character.
Yeah, I mean, look at Steel and Catwoman.
Would love to see, an African American lead. I mean, Black Panther was the first black superhero. Come on, do a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Blade.
Before Tony Stark was cool.
I guess the Blade movies, had mixed success. They made the money back there. I guess they were blockbusters, but let's face it, they're not, the Avengers. And Steel and Catwoman and Meteor Man were all flunks at the box office, and the Avengers is pretty much an all-white team.
The reason Catwoman and Steel, Meteor Man didn't work is because they used the old superhero formula of let's make it campy.
Yeah.
Camp does not work in superhero films. It never did, and it's not working. It's just not going to work. Comic fans do not want to see their characters made fun of, or themselves, made fun of, just because the character happens to be in spandex. Marvel proved that if you do a straight story, you can have some camp elements, some fun with it, but if you do a straight story, you're going to get a good audience. You're going to get a strong audience. We saw that with Avengers, Spider-Man, Iron Man. You respect the audience and respect the subject matter, you'll actually wind up with a better movie. And unfortunately, Meteor Man, Catwoman, and Steel did not respect either the subject matter or the audience, and that's why they flunked.
Unless you have a character that's already written for camp, just because that's the way you want the character to be, like Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool's fine. And what they do in the movie with Deadpool, they got the merc with the mouth, and when he got his powers, they took his mouth away.
Yeah.
I'm still staring at that one and going, what the hell?
Yeah, and Guardians of the Galaxy, the Guardian part is supposed to be the comedy, and everything involving Thanos, Ronan the Accuser, Nebula is supposed to be the serious science fiction part.
Yeah, I have high hopes for it. But see, that's not camp, it's comedy.
Yes.
There's a difference between camp and comedy. Comedy, like Shaun of the Dead is a good example of comedy where, it's in the genre of the Walking Dead films. They're having fun with it, but they are not making fun of it. They respect the audience and the conventions, even though it's a comedy. It is not poking fun at the zombie genre. It's having fun with it. It's a huge difference. They got it right with Shaun of the Dead, and they got it right with Zombieland, which was pretty good.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, a lot of these movies, look at Doc Savage, the Doc Savage movie. I don't know if you ever saw it. Ron Ely is Doc Savage. I love the Doc Savage character. It's one of the reasons I write the Joe Ledger series, because I love Doc Savage. And they made a stupid movie.
When did that come out?
Oh, it was 72.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, did that come out recently?
No. That was the guy who played Tarzan on TV. They played.
Oh my gosh.
Stupid.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know of the character. I don't know anything about the Man of Bronze other than he's except for the fact that Dynamite Entertainment, which is another great company putting out great books, like Red Sonja, and they just relaunched a lot of the Chaos books. They have a Doc Savage, I think it's Green Hornet and the Shadow comic book where they all three of them team up.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But the thing with Doc Savage, by the way, just a little side note, is the series ran in novel form from 34 to 47, I think, did 180 novels, and back then he had stuff like retina scans they called eye prints, telephone answering machines, jets, all this technology, and he had the first Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic before Superman. Superman was inspired by the character of Doc Savage. So he's a very influential character. The books are a little dated, but still fun to read. But the influence of Doc Savage on the entire superhero genre is incalculable.
We'll have to look up that Doc Savage movie and give it a watching and a review.
I mean, Mystery Science Theater 3000 couldn't make that movie watchable.
Oh, that's bad. Well, hey, John, we don't want to keep up too much more of your time. We appreciate you coming back on the show with us.
Anytime. I love geeking out with you guys. You kidding me?
That's awesome. We'll try and remember it when you become a big Hollywood star, right in the Black Panther movie or Marvel and the V Wars TV series.
TV shows. Yes.
When you go on stage and accept an Emmy for writing on V Wars.
I'll say Radio of Horror. Radio of Horror or something. No, I'm never going to stop being a geek, and that's the one thing one of the things I'm happy about myself. You know, I love being I'm a comic book nerd, pop culture nerd, been one forever, and no matter where I go in my career, that's going to be one of my defining characteristics. So I love your show.
Oh, thank you so much, John, and I really appreciate you staying in contact through Twitter and everything. It's really nice when an author or a celebrity and somebody who's written so much and gotten so up there is actually responds back on Twitter and doesn't just let it go to favorite or retweet. You know, it's like, okay, they're not really paying attention then.
Your Twitter request to me, and I've descended from Mount Olympus to be able to handle it.
Yeah, we will. I should kill the interview right now.